Welcome to the What I Wish I Knew After Pregnancy Loss podcast. I am your host, Sharna Southern. I am an angel mum, a rainbow mum, a pregnancy loss practitioner, and trauma-informed coach. I created the Institute of Healing Through Pregnancy Loss out of my own experience with loss in the hopes to provide understanding and healing, educating people on pregnancy loss, and creating more women or men in trained support roles. In this podcast, I hope to shed light on what I wish I knew in relation to pregnancy loss, opening up the conversation, breaking the stigma, and bringing real life stories plus guest experts. Thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the podcast, the intersection of pregnancy loss, fertility, trauma, and purpose, having the conversations that should have been happening all along. Today, I have with me Amanda Trieger. Amanda is a naturopath, doula, cyclical business mentor, and founder of Naturopathic Womancraft. Amanda is a woman's health educator, intuitive business mentor, and naturopath with over 2 decades of experience supporting women to reclaim their cycles, their stories, and their sovereignty. As the founder of Naturopathic Womancraft, Amanda guides women and the practitioners who serve them through the sacred seasons of life using a unique blend of cyclical naturopathic knowledge, traditional healing wisdoms, and feminine frameworks to lead without burnout. Based on Wonnarua country, housed at the Sacred Morpeth Convent in New South Wales, Amanda is a mama of 3, keeper of the gardens and birdsongs, and passionate about supporting women to lead in rhythm with their inner and outer cycles. Her work brings together I think I stuffed that up.
Right.
Menstruality
Yeah, so
awareness.
menstruality. Yeah. It sounds weird, right?
It does.
Like
You don't say
menstru
it out. You never say it that
yeah,
way out
because
loud.
and menstruality is actually like from the beginning of our journey all the way
Mm,
through to the end. Like it's the timeline that
yeah.
flows with us, but it's not a word we use ever. Yeah.
And I was like,
Should we
wait, I
use
should
more?
know that.
Yeah, it's not common.
No. So, the menstruality awareness, rites of passage, cyclical business planning, and holistic health, inviting women to lead in a way that is sustainable, soulful, and deeply wise. Amanda is devoted to helping women thrive through life's powerful phases, from mother and daughter puberty workshops to fertility awareness and matrescence, through to the deep initiation of perimenopause and beyond. Her offerings honor the rites of passage that shape us and the cyclical nature that connects us all. Whether in immersive retreats, mentorship circles, or community gatherings, Amanda's work is a reclamation, a remembering, a return to the truth that our cycles are a source of power, not something to push through. Nourishing presence to shine and empower women to live their most aligned life. Thank you for joining us, Amanda.
Oh, it's always fun. So much pleasure to jump on and talk to you, Shana. It's I think we could talk for days.
We totally could. And I love every time that we've been able to get together because what we tend to talk about is just different. And what I wanted to bring you on today was obviously that I'm a collaborator in your most recent resource, which we will talk about, and how that can look for in terms of women who are working in sensitive niches, how we can build sustainable businesses aligned to your cyclical rhythms, aligned to your natural energy. And I am so grateful to have you here to talk about all of that. But did you want to share a little bit about your background, your story, where you came from to create what you have created?
Yeah, and gosh, it's been a becoming, right? To come through my background and my purpose has always been to work with women and through lots of different phases. So I'm a mum of 3 teenagers now, which is so lovely and beautiful and a totally different phase of life than 3 tiny humans. But what I found is and I've trained through Southern Cross University in the Bachelor of Naturopathy. I also became a doula and did a lot of fertility and matrescence work in those early. And the transformation that I've gone through over that journey and over that pathway of being a successful businesswoman, being booked out in clinic months and months in advance. I've run lots of different businesses and have that sense of, if we're looking from an external perspective, lots of success and silently been going crazy, burning out, going through big periods of fatigue and exhaustion and lack of resilience and avoidance and accidentally leaving the work phone at home for weeks on end because I just needed that escape or having to escape from my reality to be able to reset and regain some balance. Um, and that pull, that sense of feeling that although externally we were succeeding, everything internally was telling me that this was only going to lead to me feeling more sense of failure and burnout, exhaustion, overwhelm, and really not feeling like I was being able to be present in any aspect of my life, not my business life, not my mothering, not my partner, and not certainly not to myself. And I went through a big burnout and autoimmune condition flared, and I had three little babies, and it really drew me back into that cocoon of needing to know more about women's journeys because the nutritional, the naturopathic, the modern realm and traditional medicine as well, and yogic. I'd done so many studies by this point, and there was still something at its core missing. And that's when I found the School of Shamanic Womancraft and started really integrating cyclical living, cyclical seasonal planning, understanding and integrating it, and really living even in the realm of the mundane, the everyday, the moments with my beautiful tiny family around me, looking at life as a more rhythmical, feminine framework completely changed everything for me. It gave me the ability to plan in advance. It gave me the ability to rest when I needed to know that there were going to be cycles to plan for, and to be able to give myself a lot more spaciousness in transitioning from mum to business owner to partner to myself. Yeah, so the amount of productivity and creativity that's flown through since then has been immense. And that's really what shifted everything for me within the business, the framework that I'm working with. And you mentioned the Wintering Woman's Guide is really about integrating the feminine frameworks
Mm.
and showcasing other beautiful women that are doing business in a feminine way. And by that we live in a really masculine world. The world is really designed on a 24-hour clock, 7 days a week. We've got a very structured linear scale that works for people that have the same biology every day when they turn up perfectly. Women don't. We work on an infradian rhythm. We've got a 28-day minimum kind of cycle that we shift to. And whether we're actively menstruating or we no longer have a menstrual cycle, or we're pregnant or postpartum, then we follow that lunar rhythm that holds the same kind of energy and can give us a tether to that cyclical rhythm, that we see really big shifts and changes come in. Because when we work in alignment with our own innate biology, amazingly, we thrive. Like, it seems common sense, but it's not anything we've been taught. I certainly didn't learn it growing up.
No,
You?
no,
No.
definitely not. And like we said before we started recording, it definitely wasn't something I was taught. Obviously, you're not going to be taught it in school. And I feel like this is important things that we need to know. But also in the coaching institute that I went through, that was not something that I was taught there. They give you the business foundations, how to structure all your offerings and how to show up, but then there's nothing. And then that was the model that I followed leading and starting my business, which led me to want to just crawl into a hole and not do what I wanted to do so much, I started to resent my business for it. So, yeah, definitely not something that is openly taught, which should be, because, like you said, we are very conditioned to show up in the same way every day and not given
And
the
then if we
space.
don't, that's some sense of failure. Like I think that women have been, and you know what? We stand on the shoulders of the women who have come before us and have changed this. And I by no means mean to negate how we already have stepped into this reality. There is further to go because what we've had to do to get into the workplace, to get equality, to be able to hold our own bank accounts, this is something my grandmother wasn't able and didn't have the access to without a partner to co sign for her. So I know that we've come so far, but there is so much further to go. And what I think has happened is that we have to be adequate, to fit in, to be allowed to be present within these structures, these frameworks that are so strongly held within the masculine. We've had to minimize the cyclical nature that we have. And I really feel like we have a beautiful opportunity as women are reclaiming this knowledge because it's not new. It's not hidden. It is something we do have access to, but it's something we've actively been discouraged from connecting with. The menstrual taboo is so strongly in place. It is handed down generation to generation. It's in schools and our workplaces and our society and all the way through our media. And we are seeing a shift, but it is a slow shift and it has to start moving and changing from ourselves first. Because even as entrepreneurs, I know a lot of women that don't know a different way of doing business yet.
Mm.
They don't know that if they can look at their seasonal and lunar calendar and take into account their cycle, that actually what they can do is plan years ahead and understand what is going to be happening in their business, what's going to be happening within the community and culture around them. Most of my business planning is already done for the next year, although winter's a deep dream for me. Most of the planning and the structure is already in place because I'm able to look at what's coming within the energy of the rhythm. And I know my topics that people are going to be struggling with. And particularly when we're talking sensitive niches, it's about how to have these conversations with women that we know need to have it, but maybe for me, knowing the energetics underneath means that I can work with what's already coming up for them. I don't have to make it I don't have to make it salesy. I can make it really potent and supportive in what they're looking for so that they know that the path is here, that there is a different way to do things. And all my marketing and advertising is done with the lunar flow because I know that it's received in a different way. So my planning is so different.
I think that's the important thing to hear, is that there is different energies throughout the different season, and everyone is going to be reacting to those different energies and feeling those different energies. So it's about how then to shift what you're talking about and what you're releasing and what you're doing, what you're creating to meet that.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me was you don't have to disappear to keep working. You don't, and this is where I was completely hitting burnout and then going, I can't do it anymore. And then you go and disappear. And then you're like, okay, now I've got energy again. That doesn't have to happen. You can continually maintain that energy to show up in the way that you need to in those seasons by being able to honor what's actually happening internally for you, whether it's the menstrual cycle, whether it's a seasonal cycle, and that feeding into that energy, you can continue to show up in the way that is right for you, not the way that someone else is telling you you need to show up. You need to do the thing. You need to always, and like I said to you before, you just need to, if you don't show up, you'll be forgotten. And then you're pushing through all of that energy, and then you end up getting to the point where you're either the business will fail, you'll shut down because you're just like, I can't continue to do this anymore. Or like I did, I ended up shutting down physically, but reassessing and going, okay, there has to be a different way. There
Yeah.
needs to be a different way to show up, and finding that way. And then that was where I was introduced more to that cyclical showing
Mm.
up when it was more aligned to my energy and to the energy of what was happening.
It makes such a big difference when you understand that within our own rhythms, if we're working against our biochemistry, if we're not feeding our body, if we're not exercising in a way that is aligned with the biochemistry of the phase that we're in, if we are pushing and moving at a speed that is too fast to maintain all month, because we've done it and we were so successful and it was so well received in the shiny phase, this on 24/7 is not sustainable. And I think for me, it was the lack of joy and play. And particularly, one of my triggers is how long's it been since I've picked up my crochet? Because I'm a granny, like I'm an old lady from way back because I love having crochet or my cup of tea. Like, how long has it been since I've fed the chickens and had a cup of tea and just actually had a minute? Like, for whatever your grounding practice is,
Mm.
how long's it been since that's been something that you've done without feeling burnout or overwhelmed with it? And for me, those things are big warning signs when they drop out when I'm not, and it is cyclical because what I was working with women in clinic and we were doing and it's not in any of the trainings, it's not embedded. That's why I work with women who lead because I need this everywhere. I want this in every business. I want this in every yoga teacher studio or massage therapist space for the first question to be, where are you in your cycle? For every PT, where are you in your cycle? It absolutely has to shift for us within our businesses, and it needs to shift for the women within our communities for the ability for them to actually succeed in any aspects. Because until we start to really put women at the center of their own rhythm, nothing else works.
And then nothing will
And depending
change.
on
Mm.
nothing changes, and depending on which phase of life you are in, if you're young, you can push the boundaries, you're much more resilient. If you're going through fertility or postpartum, you are much less resilient. You will see changes and shifts through the major rites of passage, particular matrescence, and it will ask you really to reassess what's essential, what's important, and it's whether or not we are going to continue to perpetuate that cycle of, yes, we will meet everybody else's expectations, or this really doesn't feel right for me, like this burnout exhaustion cycle, and looking further into how do you integrate cyclical self-care in tiny moments. It doesn't have to be major life changing, absolutely everything shifts. It's 1% a day is what you would hear from Red School, which is a beautiful big menstruality training center in the States. And for me, it's a practice of daily alignment. Like, where am I in my cycle? Where's the lunar right now? What's a big thing coming up? Which for us at the moment, solstice is a couple of days away for winter solstice, which is just spectacular time to release and let go of the things that you want to get rid of and you're not taking into this next new cycle, this next birth of the year. You might have noticed the last month has been a bit of chaos and intensity, and all of the intensity, shadow things that you haven't finished off are like becoming really loud, asking if you're going to continue doing the same cycle, burnout, exhaustion, fatigue, or what are you going to change? What are you letting go of? What are you going to throw in the fire? What are you going to bring in as a practice every day that you can really nourish yourself? because from that, so much grows.
It's something that I often guide my clients through is introducing that as a non-negotiable, because it shouldn't be that you hit burnout to introduce self-care. It shouldn't be that you're sick and you stop.
Yeah,
These things, or like you said, it shouldn't be that you're sitting down and questioning, when was the last time that I did something that I loved? I don't remember going for the walk, or I don't remember sitting and just being present. Or you can't put your finger on it. You can't just say, oh, it was last week. It was like months ago. So I'm like, you need to introduce, and I've spoken to my clients about it and how they enjoy taking that space and honoring themselves. And I'm like, that should be a non negotiable. That should be part of your business plan. Your
yeah,
business plan shouldn't just be the to-do list and the strategy and checking things off and launching things and creating programs and always consistently doing and having things going.
yeah,
Like, where's you? Where's that time for you? That then will mitigate anything that sort of the burnout, the sicknesses, the moments
yeah.
where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. Are you holding space for the tender parts of life? Grief, infertility, pregnancy loss, trauma, but struggling to hold space for yourself? The Lifestyle and Impact Mentorship is a 6-month container for women building legacy businesses in sensitive niches. This isn't another hustle heavy blueprint. It's support for the parts of business that no one talks about, like how your nervous system reacts every time you raise your prices, or why launching feels like burning out before you've even begun. We build differently here. We build with our cycles, not against them. We build around our values, not the algorithm. We build with our bodies in mind, not someone else's timeline. Inside, we cover nervous system regulation for sustainable income, business architecture built around your cycle, from praised to paid, so you stop giving away free therapy in the DMs, sacred pricing, messaging, and offer design, the full implementation of the legacy alchemy method, and human design support because your energy matters more than any funnel. You'll receive mentorship calls, nervous system sessions, business planning intensives, and WhatsApp support between calls, all inside a sisterhood of women building sacred businesses that last. This is for the practitioner who's ready to be well paid, deeply supported, and fully expressed in her work. We begin now. Only 3 spots available. Apply now via the link in the show notes. Your legacy deserves to be built sustainably. Let's do this differently together.
It's why, for me, workshops, mini day retreats are a part of my yearly business plan because to be able to immerse yourself for moments and refill your cup of like really understanding being around other women for me is such a powerful process as well. And being in mentorship has been one of my non negotiables. It's one of the things that in a world that is designed to be linear, we really need to have a strong community of women that are helping each other remember and supporting that growth of remembering the older ways that need to come through into the modern reality. How do we integrate this into every single day
Mm.
so that we're not looking at that escapism and that needing to leave our lives and go somewhere else to be within that feminine framework? We actually get to live it in the tiny moments of every day. And then we get to immerse ourselves and deepen that process, particularly for women who lead and hold other women, having time that they get to process not only the space that they hold for their family, but all of the work that they do within community and the stories that they hold and the experiences, it is so necessary to have a place to really come together and be in that discovering of more about ourselves, more about our businesses, more about the practices, and more about our lineage of really what's worked for so many generations to keep women vibrant and healthy that we have for so many reasons. And if you're looking for a good quick read, Jane Hardwick Collins has got her story, which is a collection of understanding of why the menstrual taboo has been so heavily held in place. But it's been of benefit. And now women are really shifting that.
Yeah. And I think that is the thing too. And there is so much menstrual taboo that if you ever said to anyone that you were building a business around a menstrual cycle, they'd be like, "Oh my God, don't ever like
Openly do it.
don't
Yeah.
talk to me
Bottom
about
of
that."
my responder email says my life is in alignment with my menstrual cycle and my family support. Because in reality, we cannot work like we don't exist and that we just are robots. This is the benefit of being with someone who is cyclical is you get all aspects of them, and particularly from a business perspective, how powerful it is to have the creative cycle that works with your own biology so that when you are bringing something new in or dreaming in a new project and planting that and doing all the hard questioning things and then creating what it is. This is how the Wintering Woman Guide just sprung into existence. It was like, wow, and she's done. Because I'm really super functional in my ovulation. I get things done. It's like pulling all the things together, saying yes, grabbing all the bits and pieces. I'm pretty much a superwoman in ovulation. Like I really can fly. But the only reason that works is because I have a scheduled cyclical self care aspect of how do I look after myself and how do I stop being superwoman? How do I take off the cape and go, cool, I do not need to do that all of the time. Congratulations. Now I'm going to integrate what I've done. I'm going to reflect. I'm going to stop and I'm going to create a little bit more space for myself this week because I need more of those progesterone filling, cortisol reducing supports, particularly in perimenopause. And I'm going to make space for release and dreaming and filling up my cup so that I can stop in my winter. And usually I like clean my house and change my sheets and do all the things that I need to do for my brain to be really happy, close off all the businesses, send all the emails, get everything sorted so that I can really just be present with what I need over the next couple of days. And it doesn't mean that I don't do any work. It just means that the work that is scheduled into that space is in alignment with what's happening for me already. It's dreaming in new projects. It might be finishing off or getting rid of old things. It might be like boring admin work that I don't really need to think about or be present in doing, but it's just a bit repetitive. So usually it's crafting something. Like I'll go and make my balms and creams and lotions at that point because I really love being with the herbs as well. So yeah, there's so many ways that we can bring it into our rhythms.
And it's just and it's just about showing up in different ways and seeing what your business requires from you in those different things and scheduling it into those spaces because in the winter you're not going to be launching things. You're not going to be showing up all of the time. That's the time where you're like retreating. You're a little bit, like you said, more creative, bit more reflective. I witnessed it for myself because I was showing up all of the time. I was showing up through my internal winters. I was showing up through the seasonal winters. And I was like, I had no energy. I was emotional. I was not thinking clearly. Like the way that I was showing up it just didn't feel right. And I actually had a coach tell me at the time I'd been showing up like that for a period of time. And she said to me that she doesn't schedule anything on her menstrual cycle. because I had been doing it and I had been pushing through exhaustion, pushing through the feeling of being heavy and emotional. And when I was doing my coaching sessions, I was even more so emotional because my tolerance to what I was getting from the external world was not very high. Everything hit me a lot harder, got under my skin a lot more, and I didn't have, like you said, I didn't have the resilience to keep going, to keep pushing through because it was just affecting me. And when she said, "Don't show up," I was like, "Oh my gosh, don't show up!" Like what?
Somebody gave me permission to not show up to meet my own needs. Oh, isn't it amazing?
It was so amazing, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like that. It's almost like I was waiting for someone to say it, but not knowing that I was waiting for someone to say it. But when she did, it was like a godsend. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, it's okay. I'm not the only one that's taking a week off, like for no reason from the outside world, like what looks like no reason. But to be able to just sit. And then when I was able to take the time out when my body was telling me that, like you said, the creativity, the stuff that comes through in those moments, because you're opening yourself up to God, universe, spirit, you're opening yourself up to the ability to tap into your higher consciousness, like the ability to pull through different ideas, the ability to manifest those different things that you want because you're not pushing and you're listening. And there was a quote that I've always lived by, and it said, busyness silences the heart. So
Mm,
when you're busy, when you're constantly doing a lot of things, constantly like marking, checking things off, you're not actually spending time listening to what's true for you, or what's the thing that wants to be said, or what's the thing that wants to be brought through. You're silencing all of that by pushing. So when you can create the space, when you can create the time, you can allow all of that then to start talking to you, to start coming through.
yeah, I think we've been taught and groomed that in order to be of value that we are productive, like that there's no productivity in rest. And I love listening to Brené Brown around, she researches shame and vulnerability, and she talks about the creative process in that, because to be productive all of the time is like the shiny part of the cycle, that we're only looking at the shiny, happy, productive aspect that is externally visible to the world without recognizing that the flip side of that is the time to rest, to clear out the clutter, to make space for that dreaming to come through. But to do that, we go through this period of release and disconnection, really, for me, from the external world. Like there's a day of transition in there of like this drawing back into almost the cocoon or the red tent we would have had in those phases of like really being able to withdraw from the realm of mundane, from the everyday, from the doing, from the busy, from the intensity, and really be back in that. And menstruation as a spiritual practice is foundational to so many women's well-being rhythms that we've been actively disconnected from. Women are not in the science. We're not included in modern reality of recommendations of good health. If you're following at the moment an exercise regime that doesn't take into account your cycle, if you're regularly going to a class that doesn't structure it around your cycle, if you're following a food basis that does not take your cycle into account or your phase of life, you are not going to get the results that are most supported by your biology. And that to me seems really ridiculous that in this day and age that we are not hearing this in everybody's information. It is, we're seeing articles and books and new programs and people coming out that are really openly discussing, I am amazing at working with my menstrual cycle and using the lunar and using the seasonal. And we're finding women that normally would be held out of business structure thriving, and particularly neurodivergent practitioners, like being able to have a structure that actually works with their well-being means that their cycle isn't something they're fighting against trying to be productive and functional in this linear model. They get to understand what is already naturally occurring and happening with them. Um, a lot of the programs that I put together, they're all based on either you start with the lunar or you start with the menstrual. Which one do you choose? But that's our framework.
Mm.
And then we layer in whatever comes next for the people that we're working with. And whether that's a cyclical kitchen or, and all of, there's so many recipes and fun things in the guide alongside articles and planning. And there's a seasonal planning tool and all sorts of fun aspects. There's a mistress class that's coming next Wednesday night, which will have a recording as well, but that'll have the option to download and print out the planner and all and go through. And we're going to go through the next couple of months and really deep dream into what's coming up and how that can all flow through into our businesses and our lives and our ongoing. I think women in the field that we work in, that work with women, that hold women, there's bigger purpose to what we do. And I think sometimes we burn out because we want to meet everybody's needs. So for me, having a structure and framework that helps to take some of that burden away rather than constantly being in the always in the creating and giving allows me to know when I can say yes to more and when I need to protect the peace and say, no, I need to say not this week. Actually, that can be next week,
Mm.
or I can do it here, or here's where I'll reschedule you to. So it gives me a framework to step back into that really means that I thrive and the rest of my family and all of my community only gain benefit from me being in alignment.
Yeah, and it's such a powerful thing to understand. And when you start working with those frameworks, you really start to see things shift for you. And like you said before we started, it's not, you take some time off and then you disappear and then no one knows that you even exist anymore. You're taking space, you're allocating things where it's more productive, and you can thrive even more by doing less. And this is where I wanted to, when you asked me to contribute to your article, your guide, was because that's where I found my sweet spot, was being able to delegate things to different times, different weeks, different energies, especially when you're working with the heaviness, grief and loss and infertility and trauma. Like you need to take, you need, and that's the thing, you need to do this for you. Like you need to understand the energies for you, because otherwise, if you're constantly showing up for these conversations, for this support, I want you to create a business. I want women to create a business that is going to last lifetimes. Like I don't want them to create a business that's going to burn out in a year or 2 years or 5 years. This is like decades. Like I want you to create something that you can show up. Like women need that support, women need that guidance, which
Yeah.
means you need to follow a system, follow a framework that honors you at your core first. Build from there so that you can sustain your business, so that it can be thriving and successful. Like you
Mm,
said, but by doing less, you don't have to keep showing up and doing more. I've had conversations with women who are like, I feel like I have to do more. I'm like, no,
mm.
you just need
Yeah,
to,
what is that little voice? Where does she come from? Who put her there saying that you shouldn't rest? I
yeah,
wonder.
I know, right? And then you're just like, you don't need to do more. You don't need to show up more. You need to shift how you're working, how you're framing, and
Mm.
how you're structuring things for yourself so
And
that when
isn't
you
this,
show up, it's more potent.
yeah, And isn't this integrated into this concept of failure not being able to do the same thing every day? It's a
Mm-hmm.
masculine concept. Like failure being, I failed because I didn't stick with my gym program or I didn't stick with my eating program. No, because they're designed for men. And women are not tiny men. We actually have a different hormonal physiology. Like we're just not. So I think what we've been taught about consistency needs to change because when we look at, oh, we need to be busy, that's not consistency turning up and being busy. Consistency is looking at the year rhythm and the monthly rhythm and the seasonal rhythm and looking at that over a lifetime of a decade of this phase of life. And when we can really get these, and I'm so visual, right? So everything I teach has visuals with it because for me, the lived experience has to be tactile and visual kind of gives me an in between with that. So for me, how I plan is visual, how I look at the year is visual. It just makes so much more sense when I put it into cyclical rhythms. And it creates a framework that means that I can look long term and know that at the moment I'm in my season of, right? It's not forever, it's a phase. And it might be the week of the cycle, it could be the season of winter, it could be like the growth and the shift of the business. But it gives me an understanding of knowing how long I'm going to be there and what I need to put in place so that I can be consistent over a lifetime, not burn myself out because I'm not looking at the bigger cycle that's in play. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when we get bogged down in those little things too, like we look at what we're doing now or what needs to be done next week, we lose track, we lose sight of that bigger picture. And then
Yeah.
that little moment that we're in becomes consuming, overwhelming. But when you can step back and go, oh, okay, this is what I've got planned, this is what's happening, have that bird's eye view, you can be like, this moment where it really isn't, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So did you want to share about your guide where people can find you? Because there's so much awesomeness. Like you've said, you've got calendars, you've got stuff in there that people can follow. You've got the mistress class that is also available soon. That's all in there too, I think. So,
Yeah, so it just came into being. It was this, we'll call it a download because it wasn't on the list of, hey, let's go create a guide for the wintering woman and her soulful guide to business. It really just flew out. And what I love about it is that we've been able to call together some really beautiful, soulful women in business. So, Sharna's, you're in it, and with your beautiful article, Mel from the Seed Cycles in it as well, sharing her rhythms and how she integrates it into her business. There's a beautiful practitioner who's kicking off a new platform to connect women and also the practitioners that support them. So there's some really beautiful, collaborative, gorgeous women out there doing amazing things. And what I wanted to showcase was women that are successfully running soulful businesses and what that could look like when we're looking, because it does help to see this being shown and lived in society now. There's also, like I said, there's seed cycle recipes, there's links back to some free meditations for winter and solstice. There's link to the guide, which I'll pop into your link, Sharna,
yep.
but also you'll be able to find the mistress class on there too. For me, it is a guide meant to provide support for you to do some cyclical planning, to look at winter as a season, to look at the cyclical rhythms. The planning tools are in there, the guides, the recipes, everything's there. So I think we're up to 67 pages now. I'm eventually going to stop adding more into it, but it's a live document. So once you're on Canva, you can flick through it. It's completely free to go and have a read through. If you're keen to download the planning tools, there's the fee that comes with the mistress class. So if you want to take it further and learn more, reach out. I would say this information, however you get it, is life changing. And particularly for women's health, this is key to everything else. When we're talking about all of the other flow on impacts, the first thing I come back to is cycle and cycle awareness and how we can build our lives around our own cyclical rhythms. We really see women that come out of that process empowered and thriving rather than exhausted and burnout.
Yeah.
So excited to see it land.
I'm so excited that you created it. And I'm grateful, forever grateful that you asked me to be a part of it, because it was my experience, obviously, building a business through pregnancy loss and grief, thinking that was never going to work, making a business work, but then burning out and resenting it. And then, but still having that fire and drive inside of me to know that there's so much more that I have to give here. I just needed to figure out a way to make that work. Figuring that out, but then also now the way that you've put it all together, it's such a beautiful guide with beautiful resources and tools. And like you said, real life people, real life women in there that are making it work. So I would encourage anyone to if you're in business already and maybe struggling, or if you're starting and wanting to start a business, you could start it this way from scratch. And how amazing would it be to start it from scratch, honoring yourself? So, especially, and like I said, I wanted to bring Amanda in to talk about it from my perspective, from women in sensitive niches who are building businesses in these spaces. You need to do this. You need to do it this way. Doing business aligned to your energy, aligned to you, aligned to how you can biologically show up, naturally show up, and create a sustainable and thriving, successful business. So I'll make sure that Amanda's guide is in the show notes, and definitely look into her mistress classes if that is something that you want to take further. I would highly recommend that as well. But thank you so much, Amanda, for being a part of the podcast.
Thank you for having me on, lovely. Like I said, we could talk for days and
We,
days, and
we,
probably will.
we could. If there was no time limit, we could totally do that.
Thank you
No,
so much, Sharna. It's been beautiful.
I appreciate it. I appreciate what you're doing and the space that you're holding for women who support women. So, for women practitioners, coaches, workers, supporters that support women to build and create what you're creating is beautiful and so needed. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all that have listened in. If this episode was valuable to you, I invite you to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and I look forward to supporting you on the next episode. Thank you for listening in with me today. I hope you found this episode helpful. If you did, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Take a screenshot of this episode, share it to social media, and tag me at Institute of Healing_PL. I love seeing what is resonating with you right now. If you want to chat further, I invite you to connect with me through Instagram. Head over and follow my Instagram account, send me a DM, and let's open the communication. If you want to know more about how you can be the support for others, head to the show notes and fill out the application form for the Pregnancy Loss Practitioner certification. I want to also note here that what I share within the episodes is not medical advice. If you need further support, please consult your doctor. Thank you again. Much love to you. Be gentle with yourself, and I look forward to supporting you on the next episode.